Well, you look the part, but let's see some of your moves.
Feeling like a star, you can't stop my shine. I'm loving Cloud City, my head's in the sky. I'm solo, I'm hunting solo, I'm hunting solo, I'm hunting solo, solo. Yeah, I'm feeling good tonight, finally feeling free and it feels so right. Oh, time to do the things I like. Gonna see a princess, everything's alright. Oh, no job but an answer to, ain't a fixture in the palace zoo. No, and since the carbon lights off me, I'm living life now that I'm free, yeah. Told me get myself together, now I got myself together. Now I made it through the weather, better days are gonna get better. I'm so happy, the carbon light is gone. I'm moving on, I'm so happy that it's over now. The pain is gone. I'm putting on my shades to cover up my eyes. I'm jumping in my ride, I'm heading.
So hello.
I wasn't ready for that intro. It was pretty good.
We have Mike to thank / blame for that intro.
Was that the song from that
The Connect Star Wars?
Kinetic? Oh
Yep.
my gosh.
1,000,000% yes. And for our viewer and listener out there, this is another episode of the Inflatable Falcon. This is Ken, your untrustworthy engineer. We've got John with us tonight, and sadly to say that Mike's busy tonight. He's got a whole lot of other stuff. We couldn't leave that third seat unfilled. John, would you be kind enough to introduce our guest to everybody, please?
Yeah, this is my boss here, our fearless leader of the Ohio Garrison. This is David Heiss.
Hello. Nice to meet everybody. Happy to be here.
So what should everybody know about you?
Yeah, I am the commanding officer for Ohio Garrison. This is year 3 now, I think. We've been really active since kind of ramping down from the pandemic, or at least COVID restrictions. And Garrison's been livelier than ever right now. We just hit 200 members again. We'll see what happens after the census, but
So 200 in just Ohio is what you're saying?
yeah.
Hello.
We're, I think, one of the larger garrisons. We're not on par with like Germany or Spain or Florida, but I think we're like the 9th or 8th largest.
Wow. And so one of the things that we know about costumers, especially Star Wars costumers, is they often have more than one. So how many costumes do you have?
If we're being technical, I have like 4. And that's just because I have a TIE pilot, which is a TIE reserve, and then an Imperial bridge crew if you take off the gloves. And then I also have a stormtrooper, which is the stunt version.
Nice. Excellent. And so how did you manage to get smuggled onto the Falcon tonight? How did all that magic happen?
That's a really great question. I know this guy named John, and he was like, "Hey, you want to come up here and hang out and talk?" I guess.
Look, don't pretend like I haven't asked you several times, and this was just one of those times that it's worked out.
I wasn't going to make you seem desperate. That's not what good friends do.
Hey, look, I will make myself seem desperate. So, yeah. You should know that enough about me by now.
Oh, at least I appreciate your honesty. Always have.
Yeah. Well, I really wanted to have you on because we've had Mike's commanding officer, Justin Taylor from Karita. So I figured, we need, because they always got down on me because my distaste for the state of Pennsylvania. So I needed to shift the balance here.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, then I guess I'll have to make a few more appearances.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about, obviously, like, I know a lot of this, but for everyone who's listening in Ken's sake, tell us a bit about like what is it that you do in the Ohio Garrison as the commanding officer?
It feels like herding cats a lot, right? Like, all right, guys, come on. No, go over there. okay, come on over here. That's what it feels like a lot of times. But the truth is, it's a lot of logistical things with regard to helping one of my members of my staff, figure out a solution to a problem. Whether it being like, hey, the host says this, what do I do for this event? Or if a member has, I don't know, beef with someone else, it's sometimes being the negotiator. Hello there.
Yes, the negotiator. Sorry.
Other times it can be a lot of fun of just going to events and making sure things go smoothly. I try to make sure I visit around the state throughout the year, which can get very expensive. So I have to sometimes ramp that down. Yeah, no, it's and then, there's a lot of also making sure we have a presence amongst the Legion, that we are often voicing our concerns or our thoughts on how Legion policy should be implemented, right? And having that voice is very powerful. I'm a big believer in being an active participant in government, even if this is, government. It's an organization that still needs to be organized, right? So a little bit of everything.
And how did you get involved in the 501st at all? Like, how did that become part of what you do?
I've always been aware of it, actually, like since I was a kid. I think I saw it was like maybe must have been like a Star Wars Insider magazine. I think it was probably around the time of like the Rose Parade, the big Rose Parade with George. I've always been aware of it, always wanted to be a part of it. It always seemed unachievable. Like it was not something that I could be a part of because I didn't have that wherewithal to build or create. And to this day, I still question my ability to do that as well. But all the same, come the time after like Force Awakens, it was like a rejuvenation to my fandom, right? My appreciation for Star Wars. And I was like, and it was at that point where I was like, I'm all in. I'm all in. I want to be a part of it. I want to do anything I can. It involved researching. And so a lot of times I was too scared to ask questions because I didn't want to be thought of as incompetent because I thought myself to be incompetent, right? So a lot of it was just covert researching and reading and strolling through forums and build threads of how to build a certain costume, and then me going, no, I can't do that. I don't know how to. And then finally committing, right? You find a recommended vendor. In this case, I really wanted to join as a stormtrooper because I felt that was the ironclad. Yeah, I did it. I joined the 501st as a stormtrooper. That's 100%. I don't know what it was. It just in my head, that was what I had to be. And so that's where I started, really. I ordered originally and ordered a kit through ATA, which is Affordable Trooper Armor. But it was going to take too long for my wanting to rush it. So I got a kit from MTK, which is another builder. I think he's out in California. And I screwed that one up. I had ordered like 2 additional helmets from him, and I kept screwing them up. Like I would trim the teeth too far down, or like the ears I'd mess up. It was a long process from like 2015 all the way to 2017, and I ended up going slow too because that was part of it. I was rushing through it because I wanted to be a part of this. I ordered another kit because I found out there was a more accurate lineage one from RS Prop Masters out in the UK. Whatever that means. It is more accurate, I guess, but at the end of the day, most people just see us and they go, Stormtrooper. It doesn't really matter. But I wanted to have that sense of validity, I guess, and authenticity. So that's what I went through with. I sold the MTK kit for parts. I put that money towards the RS Prop Masters one, saved up more money, and bought that kit. And it was a slow process, but it was better that way. And I ended up being approved in April of 2017.
Wow, that's awesome. And I just want to make sure I understand this one piece that I think is really interesting. So, if I heard you right, The Force Awakens inspired you to get back into Star Wars and
Yeah,
costuming?
yeah. No, it's a weird thing, right? Because it was a part of my, I guess, journey from where I have been in my life. I was in a very toxic relationship. If we want to open that up, um, and this person made me feel bad about liking the things that I liked. That including Star Wars. Like Star Wars has always been a big part of my life since I was a child. It's probably my earliest memory, chief among them. And I was with this person for a while, and I still cared, and I looked at it like Andy going to college, right? In Toy Story, I was like, maybe you're right. Maybe Star Wars is dumb, and just put it away. But every now and then, news would pop up, like in 2012, like the Disney acquisition, and I would be like, and they'd be like, no, Star Wars is dumb, right? Star Wars is dumb. You don't want to be like, and I was just like, all right, yeah, maybe you're right. And I really just didn't think much of it. Um, that all happening, I finally said, you know what, screw this. I'm gonna be happy and choose life, right? And came back to Ohio. First thing I did was I binged the shit out of the Clone Wars because I didn't get to watch it because this person, yeah, wasn't something I was. I guess you could say I was allowed to watch, but I just, I was discouraged from watching and made to feel bad. So that was the first thing I did, and it was an amazing experience. And that was it was so cool, and I was so into Star Wars when I came back, and then The Force Awakens came out, and I was like, oh my god, Star Wars is great. And I just like that was it for me. I was like, I'm never gonna say no to that again in my life, no matter what.
So if I'm understanding this right, John, it means that we have yet another thing to thank Kathleen Kennedy for. So we can thank her for all of the live action stuff on Disney Plus and getting this guy into costume and part of the 501st.
It's true.
Yeah, David, there is one thing on our show that we have always strided towards, and we're essentially like the White Knights of the Disney era, essentially.
Oh, then I'm your perfect candidate to be on here. Genuinely.
Yeah, that's half the reason I asked you to be on here. Other than I always love your take on things.
He never told me that. Yeah, I could have just as well walked into here going, "Oh man," listening to you guys go, "Yeah, the sequel trilogy," and I've just been like, "All right, I'll deal with it."
Well, my
I do, but
trilogy.
it's different when we're in a group of people, and we want to choose a non-canon.
Do you really think I would surround myself? Do you really think I'd surround myself with people who would trash the one character that I troop with such pride?
I have something for you. Don't let me forget it. Remind me after the show. Speaking of.
Okay.
All right.
Lock that away. I also have something for you, but you already know what that is.
But yeah, no, Kathleen Kennedy, what she's done for Star Wars, J.J. Abrams, Ryan, all of them. They've done such great things for Star Wars. And this is somebody, again, I was just a lifelong fan that I was told to put it away. And I rejected that. And here I am.
Well, with that in mind, what are some of the things that you are so strongly connected to in this galaxy that George and Kathleen and Phil Tippett and Colin Cantwell and all of those makers, put out there for us? What are some of the pieces that you really feel connected to?
If I'm to think about like the things that I eviscerate, like invoke like an emotional reaction, it's I guess themes of redemption, right? And choice. Those things are always things that make me feel, that always strike a chord for me, because I don't know why in particular, but they make me feel good. They make me feel more human. They make me, you can look at a lot of the lessons that you take from Star Wars, and you can look at a lot of like religious themes or mythology, and in its own, it is a mythology. It is a fiction. but that doesn't mean the lessons you take from it are any less applicable than anything else, whether it's religion or mythology or any other story, something that happens in real life. These characters aren't real, but that doesn't mean they're not real to you.
And why of the several costume groups that there are, why'd you pick the bad guys?
The bad guys, because they're the bad guys that do good, right? um,
Well said from the CO of the Ohio Garrison. Everybody.
right. They no, they are. I think just because that was like the first draw for me when I was a kid when I watched them, because I was like, everyone wants to be Luke Skywalker, but there's something badass to be said when you're the guy also wearing armor. And frankly, the good guys don't have a lot of good armor options.
You've got clones,
Right.
and that's
I'm
about
told
it.
those aren't very comfortable. And we have one friend of ours that, well, gosh darn, I don't know when he's going to finish that clone, but it doesn't seem like a very friendly build either.
Well, considering building things, one of the segments on this show we like to call Costume Corner, and you mentioned it a little bit ago about how it took you a little while, you made some mistakes along the way, took you a little while more, you made some different mistakes, and then finally got to that place of having your approved kit. Explain to our viewers what it's like for you putting that approved kit on and walking through a library or a convention hall, or down the street of each Jabip whenever you're in a parade or something. What's that like for you?
Well, these days I'm just more concerned about the longevity of it. I sometimes put it on and you hear a new creak or a new ooh, is that a crack? That's something that definitely weighs in the back of my head when I'm putting it on and stretching in ways that I'm like, this used to be able to move this way, but I don't think it can anymore. And I guess a lot of that can be said for our own bodies as we grow older and our own mortality becomes aware of the greater purpose, I guess. But I don't know. For me, it's a matter of suddenly you're an elevated person in your mind's eye, right? You suddenly are. I'm David, but wearing this, I am more than just David. I am David wearing this costume, and outwardly for the people looking at me right now, I am this costume, and that costume can mean something scary. It can mean something positive. It can mean, I don't even know what that is. What are you? Oh, it's a stormtrooper. Okay. But no matter what, you're suddenly this character. You're suddenly in a role, and just the feelings and reactions you get to it it's otherworldly, really, because you don't really get that. Like when I'm walking around in a library convention, it's just some 5'8" dude over there. Whatever. Excuse me. Sorry, let me get past. As a stormtrooper, though, suddenly you're walking through a convention hall and people are going, "Oh, let me get out of your way." Sorry. Or you get fist bumps or whatever. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, that was the one thing that was always fascinating to me, because obviously, I'm still pretty new to the 501st, which I'm sure you both know. But putting on the costume, you feel like a different person. You feel like the character you're wearing, and obviously, I wear a larger named character, and just getting those reactions, and especially from little kids who don't know that you're just they don't know that I'm just a person in the costume. It's when they think that you're actually that character. I think that those are some of the best moments in costume.
I love that you wear the Kylo Ren costume so well. It makes me so very happy. Just because you don't see it that often, especially these days. But I mean, I had one myself. It just was terribly uncomfortable. Had to get rid of it. As you know, you've acquired some of those parts.
Was it the leather pants or?
It was, for me. It was the pleated
sleeves.
For me,
Really?
mine were just too tight, probably. But all the same, though, it has to have some level of conformity to it, which is cool because if you're reading a costume, And when you're wearing a costume, you suddenly feel, I don't know, when I wore Kylo, for example, I felt strong. Like I felt like I was like, all right, like I'm not, Ben Swallow here, but like this, there's a way the costume makes you feel, and it's like a whole different experience.
Yeah, and it doesn't make you feel strong because you're wearing about 30 pounds of, heavy quilted
True.
fabric. Well, yours wasn't. Yours was mostly the cape.
Yeah, mine was
sure.
the Last Jedi version, which was and I contacted I commissioned it out of Crow Props for the cape out in oh heck, I don't know where he is. I just know the shipping was really expensive.
I think he's in. I think he's in Italy.
It was very expensive, but it was legitimate leather cape. It fit perfectly. It made me feel cool. Capes make you feel cool. It's just a fact of life, okay? But that cape, I swear, because you would have to, because the way it sits on him, it doesn't sit like a Dracula cape. It sits out like over the shoulders. In order for it to like stay on there, you have to like tie underneath your arms and then like hide it underneath the tunic. It was like having shoestrings or like fishing line pull into my skin. It was so awful. I mean, beautiful costume.
Yeah, I have not heard a good review of the Last Jedi costume only because of the cape. See, I find the Supreme Leader look incredibly comfortable. It's super light, super breezy. But I don't want to. That's the one thing I'm not looking forward to is adding.
I didn't have the charming good looks or the hair to pull that off, and for some reason, Kylo never grew a beard, so I just said never did that version.
Yeah, I mean he had a little bit of he had a 5 o'clock shadow in the Rise of Skywalker. Pull that off.
Yeah, I don't remember Kylo being have that hue in his facial hair.
My partner the other day, actually earlier, she was like, it looks redder than usual. I'm like, man, everyone keeps on saying that. I don't know why. I don't know why what's happening.
Hey, it's better than looking grayer than usual.
As a person that had blonde hair, you already go through that phase early on. I had bleach blonde hair at one point in my life, and now it's an odd brown color.
I used to have hair at one point in my life, so I know what that's like.
Sometimes it's a look, though. You never know.
Yeah, Ken pulls it off very well. I will say
you
that.
You shine it, or like is it just?
It's naturally odd. That's what it is.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Like I just stepped out of a salon. Now, so you mentioned your TK. You mentioned that you've done Kylo Ren costume.
Mm-hmm.
Considering the entire galaxy of Star Wars costume, money's not a concern. Fit's not a concern. We're talking magic here right now.
Okay. If we're talking just purely imagination here.
Yes, purely imagination, pure, space fantasy. What's the one costume that you would want to have?
Vader, 100%.
You didn't even hesitate. Like no. I didn't even get the chance to finish
Vader the whole thing. Is it. Vader is the one. Vader would be the one if I was like at least a foot taller and probably about 60, 70 pounds heavier. Yeah, absolutely. And maybe like a wider set build. I got that like slender ballerina body. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah. Now, since we are all nerds here, I have to ask the question. Which Vader?
Which Vader?
Because I have my answer, but I'm curious as to what yours is.
You know what? I feel like my answer would have been different. Prior to 2 weekends ago. When was Expo? 2 weekends ago?
Yeah.
Because I had a long talk with a member of ours, Dan Jacobs, who's he's an incredible Vader. He's an incredible guy. He always just makes me so happy. And he's a history teacher at some public school in Cincinnati. And you look at him and you just think history teacher. He's that guy. But he also has an officer. He pulls that off amazingly. But he has a New Hope Vader. And I was talking to him about it pretty extensively. And, he like handed me the helmet. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, I don't want to touch the helmet. Like, that's that just seems expensive, and I don't want to trust my hands on something that expensive that I cannot replace. But he was like, no, the New Hope Vader, it's gross, it's dirty. Get fingerprints on it. It's supposed to look messy. And I was like, so you don't mind me touching this everywhere? And he's like, no, it's fine, it's cool. And I think when he said that and how kind of put together that Vader is, it's very charming. And it's the most classic look, right? It's the first appearance, right? So I think that would be my answer. It was a long segue to get there, but that's it. That's the Vader I would be.
Yeah, seeing Dan's first off, meeting Dan for the first time, that was because like I've seen him like we've got the Ohio Sith Lords thread that we have, and like he's always posting things in that group. But like actually meeting him in person and actually getting to sit down and chat with him, he blew away every expectation I had of actually meeting him. But then seeing his officer on Friday, we got our nice little officer picture with the white shirts. But then his Vader, I mean, it's just such a convincing Vader. You know, obviously, like, there are many Vaders in the garrison, but for some reason, I would say Eric's and Dan's are the two best Vaders that I have seen in person.
I haven't seen all of them, but yeah, I agree. It's both of them have a way of about them. Eric having the Revenge of the Sith version with like which has like the included like shoulder piece, right? It's like this very big like football shoulder width. And I think that helps his like his imposing nature because he's like just a really tall, slender guy. And so is Dan, but Dan goes the extra mile. He wears that like muscle suit underneath it, so it gives him more definition. And he just the way he moves when he's in that, I think a lot of times it's because the costume is so heavy and he's kind of stomping because he just needs to stomp to move, but he has a way about his movement even that really invokes the character and makes you go, that's Vader right there. I don't know any. That's 100% Vader from the screen. It's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say muscle suit, are you talking like Power of the Force muscle suit, or?
Yeah, yeah. He wears this. It's so insane to me because I think about the like logistics of the heat from Vader. The costume alone is incredibly hot and sticky and awful. But then he wears like underneath all of that, he has like, you ever seen Arrested Development? There's a scene with Michael Cera and they're like doing they're recreating famous portraits and he wears this muscle suit and he looks absurd. That's what Dan's wearing underneath. He wears a muscle suit underneath because he's like a slender guy. He's like just a tall, stickly guy, but he bulks up with the muscles. He's like, I can't bulk up, but I can wear this. And he does it. I don't know how, because I can't, it's like this thick foam and it's got that's like creepy, like skin tone, flesh color to it. And then he puts all of his layers on top of it. So it's like Dan, the person, skin suit, Dan, the muscle suit, the Vader components, the cape, the everything. And it's like, I don't know how he does it for as long as he does it too. It's crazy.
Well, for me, I don't have a fancy suit like that. I have a custom Mando, and I know that as soon as I get the suit on, when I get the armor on, it's like that comfort and time cease to exist, and I'm just out there doing my thing. Like you said, fist bumping folks and high fives and that kind of thing, and I forget about that personal comfort until the end of the night or the end of the day when I take it off. I'm like, how did I manage to stay in that thing so long?
Well, I posit the question to both of you then, because I want to know if body, money, nothing, no factors here. You could just be any character or any costume that you could be. What would you do?
You go ahead, John.
Ken? No, you go ahead, please.
Well, staying on the Vader theme, because Vader is definitely one of those characters that is like, I think Vader is more recognizable than the Pope, Michael Jordan, and then some parts of the world Jesus.
Right.
So being a Vader would be fantastic. And there's one of two Vaders that I would want to be. The Ralph McQuarrie concept Vader,
Oh yeah.
because it's, if you say there's no limit and this body type can fit into that costume, that would be incredible. And then the creepy Vader without his mask on, and he's got the head scar, and like seeing Luke for the first time with his own eyes, that Vader, only because it was such a shock to see Vader that way. How about you, John?
It's hard to pick just one because we watch all this media and you see so many costumes. I think selfishly, I would have to say my one would be the sideshow Captain Rex. If I had to pick a one out of the list of CRLs, it would specifically be the sideshow Captain Rex. But if we're stretching outside of the realm of possibility a little bit further, Chewbacca. We have a friend that his name is Marty. We talk about him probably every single week at this point. He does the best Chewbacca. And he does the Skywalker stilts, ironically enough. So he's 7'4", 7'5", however tall, because he did it specifically to be Peter Mayhew's height when he was in costume, so it is as accurate and true as possible.
I'm just saying it's possible. That's something like that is, it's within the realm of possible.
Yeah, that's why I said just kind of like slightly outside of, because Rex is doable, but Chewie is a little bit more difficult to
definitely have to learn how to walk on stilts first.
If we're going really fantastic, right. For me, I would have to go Senator Binks. Like I would love to be able to pull off a mildly realistic looking Jar Jar Binks in his senatorial costume.
I've always had a fascination with droids too. Like that was my first when I was a kid, and to this day I think the physicality of the droids that they've built in this crazy universe is always just so fascinating to me. And I've had the opportunity to meet 2 Ohio 3POs. And every time I'm so amazed and I'm so in awe. And then I just watch them immediately, they'll wear the costume for about 30 minutes and then they're like, get me out. But get me out isn't as simple as like, oh, let me just shake this. Let me take my helmet off. No, they have to literally unscrew. And I'm just like, that's insane. I would love to wear a costume like that. I feel like I have a build like that because I am a slender guy. I could do something like that. And I'm not a claustrophobic person, but taking my ability away to have agency to take off my face is horrifying. And I respect the people that do that. That costume is insane.
Well, speaking of protocol droids, our usual pilot, Mike, his daughter actually does 000.
I love 000.
We have had the pleasure of witnessing how difficult kitting up into that costume is.
Couldn't imagine.
So,
and it's crazy too because that costume has become more and more accessible now with the advent of 3D printing. It's just.
Oh, don't tell Mike that. Mike does not like the 3D printed droids, specifically because a lot of the times most people will. Because the nice thing about 3D printing is you can resize it to however you need it to fit your body. But the problem with protocol droids is you'll resize, like say the thighs are too small. So you resize the thighs, you scale them up to say 125%. But then the thighs look too big compared to how everything else is
proportionally
scaled.
You have to figure out how everything else is. I have that issue with my Stormtrooper actually. My thighs are way smaller than any other Stormtrooper thighs because at the time that's what was comfortable for me. It was like I was like, I don't want this floating. I want this to kind of fit like my skinny jeans, So if you see me next to a lineup of any other stormtroopers, you'll probably be able to pick me out because I look like a stormtrooper with skinny jeans on with my thighs. I made them too small.
You wouldn't be as easy to pick out as I was the first time I ever wore stormtrooper armor.
Because you had cowboy boots on.
Well,
Yep.
that would be a good
So-
giveaway.
Yeah, so we have the pleasure to be a part of a fan film called The Han Solo Chronicles, and Mike had brought his extra set of TK armor and asked me if I wanted to wear it, and I was like, "Well, I mean, absolutely,"
I guess.
but I didn't have any white boots, so it was either my Vans or my leather boots. So, we kind of rolled with it. And most of the things that I was
stuck out.
Yeah. But then the second time I had TK boots because at the time I was going to build a stormtrooper. But then I was like, well, I mean, I've still got to be able to pick myself out. So I made sure to wear my orange Sergeant pauldron.
Smart.
So, yeah, just like Sam Jackson, you want to be able to see yourself in the crowd.
Fair. And that's a fair thing to do, which is not to completely segue, but I gotta love that like he gambled with George on that one and he won, and which totally makes the episode 1 figure I have of him just invalidated because it has a blue lightsaber.
Yep.
But also like Sam Jackson, like unwittingly like caused us to have different colored lightsabers. Like it's I know they did it in like Legends beforehand, and these things were described, right? Or you'd see them in a comic, but live action or animation, I can credit Samuel L. Jackson to be the reason why we have these amazing assortment of lightsaber colors now, especially with Rey's yellow lightsaber, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, I always loved that clip from the behind the scenes, specifically because, when Sam Jackson goes, "No purple?" And George's like, "You might get purple." I just love his face at the end where he just goes,
well, I feel like
biggest
it was
grin
a
on
bit of
his
a
face.
gotcha too. I feel like it was like, hey, we know the BTS cameras are rolling right now. If I put George in the spotlight here, he can't say no, right? Because now he looks like a jerk.
Right.
I think there was a little bit of that manipulation there, but it worked out.
So you're saying that Sam Jackson is more of a Jedi than we really give him credit for in the real world? Is that how that goes?
There was a bit of a mind trick there. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Now, I do want to ask, even though, again, I've asked you this personally. So back to the 501st in a more broad sense, what made you even consider joining command staff?
Oh man,
because that's something that's always something that fascinates me.
Because I'm where I'm at now.
Well, because we all troop, we all do the things, but what was that extra step that was like, okay, I want to do more now?
Well, it started with like wanting merchandise because we didn't make any at the time. We hadn't made any in a very long time. I think we had made like a patch once, like a patch and a coin for our 15th anniversary or something like that. But and I missed out on those naturally because I was new and I didn't know any better. But it was I started. I was like, I had these ideas. And we had a merch officer, no names here, but we had somebody who just was kind of like, no, I don't want to do that. And I was like, okay, well, what are you going to do? And nothing, apparently. So I was like, but they were helpful in that they taught me like some rules and regulations of, branding. And I was like, okay, so I can make something myself if I just avoid this and this and this and this and this. And it's like just my own creation, right? And they were like, yeah, sure. So I made, and it turns out it wasn't an original idea. I guess somebody else had done it before, but I had never seen it. I took our Ohio State flag and I put a cog right there on the O, but I made that as a flag. And I did all the work of like contacting a vendor and figuring out how to make the flat. Like I had a sample made for myself, and I was like, it's really cool. And I was like, you want to know what? I bet everyone else would really like this. So then I solicited this vendor to do services for us, and I basically had a unofficial run going. And it was pretty popular. And then I was then asked to be the merch officer because I did all the job of a merch officer and a merch run unintentionally without knowing that I would be taking someone else's role, which I kind of feel bad about. I didn't mean to do that. That wasn't my call to make. But that happened. So that's how I got involved in the command staff. And at the time we had, there was still a lot of transitionary period there, and there were some issues, and I volunteered a lot of like any help, anything I can do. I wasn't pushy. I was like, oh, this is just my advice. And then soon after that, and did merch for a while. And I was, I guess, valuable enough to the staff at the time that they saw fit to have me as XO, their executive officer, and I did that for a minute. And then the person that was in charge stepped down after the term, and I was like, I could do it. I mean, I kind of felt like I took on a lot of responsibility there, so here I am. I ran for commanding officer, which was kind of it was a tightly fought election, I could say that much. But I won, and here I am.
Yeah, well, I've said this to you personally, and I would like to at least offer it in a more public space, but I am very grateful to have you as our commanding officer, because you've been, and it's nice because if I have questions, I know you're just a text away. I know I can message you and just ask you anything. And it's seriously nice to have that in a position of power.
Yeah. And I don't like to perceive it as like a power thing. I think of it more as like,
right.
But I know what you're saying, but like, you have people that go, oh, well, the politics of like nerddom are weird as heck. I'll tell you that much. Like, and I don't even want to use the word politic, but that's the only thing that really describes just the wonton of personalities that surface, and it can be really jarring at times. But I like to see it as just a means of helping people, because I know when I joined, I had so many questions, and there was very little fanfare when I joined. That was one thing that would for me, it was like a pat on the back. And it's not that I wanted fanfare or expected fanfare, but it felt like there was an opportunity that could be. So like, you'll probably notice this, John, but like new members and you yourself, new members, I make sure everyone's aware. Like I make an announcement. I'm like, yo, this is the new guy. This is the new person. Look how cool their armor is. Like, I want to make sure everyone knows who this person is. So that way, if this person's trooping anywhere, like people are like, hey, you're the new guy. I know you. Like I want people to be familiar, because when I went to my first troop, everyone was like, who are you? And I was like, oh, I'm David. Hi. And then I met Cameron, which was great. And then I also do like certificates, which is something that nobody that I'm aware does. We never did that when I was a member. The person I served underneath didn't do this, but it was an opportunity that I saw, and I recommended it so many times. I was like, I'll do it. I'll do the thing. But I make new member certificates, which has their new, like their Legion ID, their name, what is the official day that they got that number. So it's like their anniversary date. I sent, and then I mail them, or I hand it to them in person, their new member certificate, because I think it's something that you really need to, like, when you cross the finish line. I'm not saying everyone needs to get a participation trophy, right? But there needs to be some acknowledgement, right? That, hey, you did it. That's awesome. And that's something that has always been my focus of doing this, is I just want people to realize that they have an ability ask questions and get answers immediately or whenever I'm awake or available, or just feel acknowledged, I guess. And I think there's sometimes a loneliness to costuming communities when people don't have that like connective tissue.
Yeah, and I will say this. Obviously, like I've got both my certificates, my first troop certificate, and I've got the one that you mailed me, as well as the little sticky note that you wrote me. So I even kept the envelope because you put the Imperial
I had that
cog
custom
stamp on
made.
it.
I did that myself. It was like an engraving that I made in like some college class, I think. It was like but I was like, oh no, I gotta keep this unofficial. So I removed all the branding from it, so it's just the state. But
Right. But yeah, so like I still have mine, and that meant a lot to me. But more importantly, when Papa John, you both met him, he was ecstatic when he got that in the mail, because my dad has lived a very white bread life.
Milk toast.
Yeah. So, him branching out and doing something like way out of his comfort zone, it was scary for him, even though like I had done it for a couple months at that point, and like I was able to like kind of shepherd him to like, okay, here's kind of what to expect. But I think once he got that certificate in the mail, it all became very real. That that he's a part of a bigger group now, and and like that was another thing that for me, like seeing that post in the Facebook page, like that was, I can't even explain to you like how big the smile on my face was all day. Like I was screenshotting almost every comment and just sending it to the friends that I have. Just it does mean a lot. So the fact that you were able to change this mentality and make it more, I don't want to say more inclusive, but more of a group than just a bunch of individuals that do.
Well, also
the
it
same
sounds
thing.
like I'm not from Ohio. I've only been there and through there, but for me it sounds like there's a respect and an acknowledgement for the time that you put in to become official and the time that you're going to put in now that you are official. So it's that thankful appreciation for the effort you've done and the effort you will do. You're now part of something that's bigger than just your individual work in your garage, front yard, living room, whatever. You're a member of this garrison, with this number, whatever, and you're one of us now.
I've always and that's exactly it. But I always try to stress too to people, I'm like, it doesn't have to be like a way of life for you. If you want to troop once a year and just leave it at that, that's cool, man. Like some people take that really personally sometimes. And I think that's, one of the many things I have to deal with is like, oh, we can't get so-and-so to sign up for this event. I'm like, so I'm sorry. At the end of the day, we're volunteers. We all volunteer our time. There's an expectation I have for people on staff and myself to volunteer more of our time because that's what we put ourselves in that responsibility to do that. But for everyone else, I don't, there's a huge community here to support you. If you need help or you want something or you want to make friends, absolutely here. But if you just want to be like here, but like, you wanted to go through the accomplishment and sense of belonging, but you realize maybe it's not for you, but you still want to join or still maintain your membership, I get it. Like it's really fascinating because Ohio's branch of this has been around for 20 years now, and we still have some of our like original members, and most of them aren't super active. They'll do one trip a year and move on, but they were really active at one point, and I think we all will get there eventually. Just wind down, life just becomes real or not attainable or expensive. I get it. I don't even know how I got here.
Well, yeah,
that's roundabout how it goes here.
Well, do you have any good vegan recipes or anything for us, Dave?
Yeah, that's another key part of our show.
Vegan recipes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike is our
Oh,
resident vegan. So we always there are a few points that we hit almost on a weekly basis. It's vegan recipes, car repairs, and the Magic Jump Inflatable Falcon, which
Has to be mentioned.
the
my
GoFundMe is
my
still
partner
live.
was a vegan, and she had many amazing recipes that she has made for us that we still eat. So, do I know them? No, but does she? Yes.
Oh, I guess that's an acceptable answer.
So you're cool by association, is what he's trying.
She had this stir fry recipe. Oh, it is so good. I mean, it's really just veggies, but like the tofu has to be pressed and then like kind of fried. Oh, it's so good.
Perfect.
So good.
I think that
It
checks the box.
absolutely does. 1,000,000% yes.
Good. I'm glad.
It's amazing to me to think that
now,
we've been chatting for 50 minutes and we've barely scratched the surface of the rest of the Star Wars galaxy. It's all been about, that experience in the kits, the building of the kits, the that appreciation for all the effort that goes into it. So it has absolutely positively been wonderful, having you on the show with us. Do you think this is something that you would be interested in doing another flight at some point?
I would be more than willing to do this at any other time. It would be great.
I mean, it hasn't been, too high stress or high pressure for you.
No.
to
If anything,
be
I
on.
feel like I've talked too much. I've talked over you, and I apologize for that.
that's the point of being a guest, though. So we want to hear about you. We want you to be the one talking.
I guess, yeah. I guess that's a valid point. Still, though, I mean, I now have like so many questions. I mean, I want to know all about Ken.
Well, that's a long story. Narrow it down a little bit.
Favorite movie of the Star Wars movies?
Oh, John knows that this
and then
one's a tough
second
one.
favorite movie, then, because Empire or Jedi usually takes precedent for most people.
Well, what's really funny for me is I don't have one. I see them all as one ginormous piece of magic, and so I usually don't pick a favorite one. If I was pressured, if you had a blaster to my child, the child, I would probably say something like A New Hope, only because that's where it all started. We wouldn't have any of the the stuff that we have today without the beginnings way back in 76 to get A New Hope on the screen for all of us.
How about this? Because now I'm curious, and I am pressuring you
Okay.
as your guest here. Favorite from each trilogy.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it. Well, I'll still start with A New Hope from the
Okay.
original trilogy because once again, started there. I mean, that was the groundbreaker. That was the introduction to this place that never existed before, and literally and figuratively changed the world. The prequel trilogy, that one is a lot harder.
Come on, gimme,
I
gimme.
mean, the Revenge of the Sith is nice and all. I know that's John's favorite. It's actually my oldest stepson's favorite.
As it should be.
So I'm not going to pick one for the prequel trilogy because they are all awesome. For the sequel trilogy, I'm gonna say it so that the world knows it. It's gonna be The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi was the one that I felt the most connected to, the most touched by, the most inspired by, the one that was most unlike the rest of them, and so there's a lot of power in that. And I don't think we should forget about the other movies that don't get as much praise as they should. So you've got the Clone Wars movie in 2008. And we say it's a movie because it was actually, released in theaters.
I did see it in theaters.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did see it in theaters.
Yep, me too.
It's a whole rant I have about that movie, and it's a good rant. I have a whole thing to talk to you about Ahsoka, the character, with regard to that movie and the animated series and other projects, but we'll talk about that at another time, I think.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Mhm.
And there's another movie that folks often forget about, and I say they often forget about it because it wasn't released everywhere in the theaters, and that's the Ewok Adventure, Caravan of
Oh
Courage.
wow, yeah. I've never actually seen that. I've never seen that.
Are you a subscriber to Disney Plus?
Yeah, I know I have it.
Yeah.
I'm scared to watch it, to be honest with you, just because, how divisive the fandom can be, and I don't want to go into it expecting a masterpiece.
Well, considering what it was at the time, it may very easily be considered a masterpiece.
Oh wow.
They did some things in that movie that, for instance, and then the only reason it's so fresh in my mind is because just recently I did an interview with this gentleman named Jordan Wygand from the Pod Awakens, and we talked about both of the Ewok movies. And that first Ewok movie was, if it's not the first, it was one of the first that was displayed in Dolby Stereo. And so at the time, way back in 84, not a lot of folks had stereo systems hooked to their television. So what they encouraged people to do was to play the movie through their stereo systems. Local radio stations carried the movie so you could watch the movie on television, yet hear it through your stereo system in stereo. So even back then
Interesting.
in 84, George was pushing the envelope. So
Yeah, like innovative technology. That's something that Star Wars, like, I think, regardless of what your thoughts or feelings, I mean, we all know we love Star Wars, but that's something that everyone needs to be able to appreciate. It's George and Star Wars as a whole has just pushed the envelope for everything, and its possibilities, and it's continues to blow my mind.
and that's why we on this show can't praise those folks enough. Whether it's Dave Filoni, John Favreau, Deborah Chow, J.J. Abrams, Ryan Johnson, Phil Tippett, all of those incredible makers, and then go down the path of the costumers and John Williams with the music, or
Mm.
John Knoll, the guy who created Photoshop, who did a lot of stuff, including pitching the idea for Rogue One. I mean, we like talking about those folks. Those folks are our folks, and thanks to them, we have a near endless supply of things to chat about.
And it's something I'm forever grateful for. And that's like one of my biggest arguments in defense of the sequels and in defense of the Disney acquisition. Because I don't want to say goodbye to something that I love. I don't. And I think being able to have Star Wars forever, I understand there's fatigue when it comes to certain things, but I'm okay. I'm okay with just kind of just being overwhelmed all the time of new. I'm like, this is great. Anytime I want to go to a bookstore, I can get a new Star Wars book. Anytime I want to pick up a new comic book, I can pick up a new Star Wars comic book. If I want to watch a new Star Wars show, there's another one already out. I love that. It makes me happy. And when we have a new cinematic experience one day, I will be there in line on midnight. You can bet on that.
That's awesome. Well, John, I gotta say, thank you so much for bringing this guy on board with us tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you. At some point, John and Mike and I have talked about getting together to troop at the same place and time. So if you've ever got room for a person from Jersey over at an event in Ohio, let me know. Even though I'm a Merc, I mean, I don't know if you 501sters hang out with the Mercs.
We have like a shared event for them. So we Mercs and Rebel Legion, we all do the same events.
Nice.
You'd be more than welcome to join us. I can get your account set up.
He's the guy.
I'm that guy.
Yeah, and there's one last point that I'd like to make, and I know we've said it on this show before, but I think it's always nice to rehash. If it wasn't for Star Wars, more specifically, if it wasn't for costuming, none of us would be sitting here having this conversation today. Because if it wasn't for Mike scrolling through TikTok one day and seeing my poorly made Mandalorian costume, I'd have never met Mike. If Zoe hadn't gone to an armor party, Ken, you would have never met Mike. If it wasn't for Mike, I wouldn't have joined the 501st. Really, Mike is just the connective tissue. Now that I'm making this statement out loud, I think we have all of this to thank Mike or blame him, depending on your point of view. But I just love how connected the costuming community has made all of us. And it's just, I'm very grateful to be able to sit down every week and have these conversations. It has been truly a highlight so far of my life.
I mean, kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. Like, it's like, if you think about like the continuing degrees of separation until you get to a point where you get to the production in L Street of where people are putting these costumes on, and someone going, man, that looks really cool. I want to recreate that. Like, that's really what it goes down to. It's just this lineage of people going, that's awesome. I want that. I want to be that too.
And to go, into the future, there's the possibility that your appearance at an event, whether it's a street fair, a church gathering, or one of these bigger comic book conventions, your appearance there could be the thing that inspires the next costumer to ask that question that leads them into this world of, now I've got 18 projects, in various states of process.
Of disarray.
Yeah, of disarray. Exactly. Various stages of completion. And it was because you were there at that moment to answer that question or talk to that one person or get that one photograph that changes their trajectory. And so, the words thank you, can't be said enough when it comes to this. And I'm so glad that we continue to cross paths with more folks that are willing and able to share that appreciation for this thing that started off as an idea from this wacky guy in the mid 70s. So George, I know you're listening because you listen to every one of our episodes. George, thank you very much. We raise a glass, and I'm gonna. Do you have anything else before we hit that little outro, John?
No, just David, thank you for coming on. I know, like I said, I've pestered you enough. I'm glad you finally made the journey here. So, and I'm grateful that we've had this conversation tonight, and hopefully
I'm really appreciative of the both of you having me. I hope to come back. I hope to meet Mike as well, this mystical person who's this connective tissue. This was a really good experience for me. This was the first time. And you guys made me feel very welcome. And it's really cool. It's really cool to be in the comfort of my home and feel like I just had a really great night out with the boys and talking Star Wars.
Nice.
Yeah. And I think it goes without saying that we would offer the same pleasantry to you that we did to Justin. You have an open invitation, if I'm not mistaken, to come back whenever you'd like. All you got to do is shoot me a text and say, hey, send me that link for Wednesday.
Send me that link for Wednesday. All right, well, maybe you'll see me as a semi-regular appearance.
Hold on a second. Speaking of, hold on, wait. This is weird.
Whoa!
I did it. I managed to get him on.
Is this?
He looks frozen.
I
wrecked the whole show. I just got done class and I wrecked the whole show.
Is this the mythical Mike?
I guess I never been called mythical before, but
mythical Mike is a good word. It's
okay.
a good name.
I'm not going to end the show right now. I'm just going to walk the dog. You guys get connected. I'll be right back.
I ruined our timing. I just got let out of my class. I was like, I figured I'll jump over real quick. So.
It's nice to meet you. I'm David.
David, nice to meet you. That's
Nice.
his middle name, so I won't forget it. So.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. You both have heard plenty about each other from me, so because I can't speak highly enough of the both of you. So.
Yeah, it's like you're the third, the fourth Beatle, I guess, right? I don't know.
The fourth Beatle.
Yeah.
Does it make me Ringo?
I guess you'd be Ringo.
Yeah, but he's still alive too, though. And he
That's
looks
true.
pretty good, man. He
true.
gives a good, for a drummer. That's the band member to be. So what did I miss? I was actually doing schoolwork until like 2 minutes ago.
What did he miss, John?
A long conversation about the 501st and our appreciation for Star Wars.
Yes. I joined in 07.
So,
07. I joined in 2017.
And my girls started trooping in 08.
Wow.
So
Were they cadets or I mean that was probably before the
they
academy.
didn't have any of that nonsense back
Yeah.
then. They were Jawas. Safi was 4 and Zoe was 6. So
Yeah. Ken was just talking about kind of the legacy of it all, which is kind of a fascinating tidbit. And from an older member such as yourself, it's always probably fascinating when you have younger people coming in, you know, and there's the distinct possibility of having somebody come into your garrison or troop with you that you're like, yeah, actually, I met you like 10 years ago.
I think that's Quinn. We did a troop for a Make-A-Wish young man. He was like 17 and survived brain cancer.
Dang.
And then a couple years later, I helped him build his biker scout armor. And then I actually carted it to Chicago, and he wore it basically the entire time at Chicago celebration. Wouldn't take it off.
He was like, "This is on me now. It's my new skin."
Yeah, so I've had that happen, you know. And then we met John, who said, you know, we still got to pull the recording of John saying his dad would never be a costumer.
yeah, you know. And David, you've seen it live in action. He eats it up every time he's in
Hey,
costume.
don't put me on the big screen. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just a fascinating thing to hear. And it's one of those perspectives that I've never really even considered, I guess, just because I'm a younger guy myself. But, you know, I guess that is true. I mean, one day, you know, what is the Yoda quote? We are what they grow beyond, right? And it's neat to be able to pass on that torch, I guess.
Yeah.
And even then it's like, I mean, for me, the most fascinating thing is talking to older members a lot of times, because I'm always like thirsty for more knowledge of like.
You should say legacy. That word older is tough on it. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll keep with legacy then.
Well, he was looking right at you when he said that. I'm just saying.
We'll go with archaic, ancient,
Antiques.
No, I
Decrepit,
mean the guys
moldy.
that got to be in it, you know, before, you know, when things are a little bit more loosey goosey. It's always fascinating.
It was weird when I joined the TK. I sent my approval pictures in, I think on a Monday, and I was approved on a Wednesday or something. And I just remember the lady called and said, or emailed me. I say the story all the time. She said, your logo for your Under Armour is showing. Can you send me a new picture? So I just pulled the shirt, took another picture, like a selfie, and sent it to her. She's like, yeah, you're in. You know, there was one, and that was a straight up FX kit. It was with the big.
Oh, with the big, yeah.
I still have it up there. It's a big bobblehead. You know,
We have one guy that still wears his, and you know, I allow it because you're grandfathered, right?
yeah.
So,
Well,
but
it is the armor that started the Legion.
it's true. It was the accessibility of it.
Yeah, and like it or hate it, that like if you look at any of those pictures, you know, especially pre when I joined, like if they were starting to change over in 07, but if you look at anything pre 07, 90% of those stormtroopers are FX or FX copies.
And really, whenever I see that costume, I'm like, it's a Rebels TK at that point.
Yeah, well, there it is right there.
Yeah.
It's also
it's
by
super
John.
cool.
John's worn it too.
Yep.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's interesting. We have one guy. I think his name's Mike Frazier. He's down in Dayton, I think. He troops like once a year for a parade, and he always wears that costume. But he's been wearing it.
Hold on, he's got his kit's in FX.
It's not. There's a couple different Fraziers. Yeah,
Okay.
for clarity's sake.
It was
Gotcha.
just the kit is so heavy. Like the plastic on my kit is thicker than my Sand Trooper or my whatever the Anovos kits or any of that. It's so much thicker. Like,
Yeah, it's
But-
it's a remarkable kit, and that one is to really be thankful for increasing the numbers and exponentially as they did.
well, and someday I'll be wearing that kit, and I'll probably meet a member that is younger than my kit.
They already exist, probably.
Yeah, well, let's see. What's 07? How many years is that? That's 16. So I got
16.
2 more years, and then I'll have members younger than my kit.
That's shocking.
Well, and then like Sappy, my youngest has been trooping for 15 years. No, since she was 4. So she's been trooping 16 years, and she's 20.
Does she have like approved costumes now?
She's an droid builder. She's 000.
Oh, right. We talked about that.
And then Zoe does Sabine. She's approved in Mando Mercs. And
That's super cool.
I have so many projects. I have a animated tie for Zoe for the Legion to get done. I mean, it's done. We literally just got to put it on her and take pictures. It's just our household is. Ken saw it. I have way too many projects going.
It's all about family, man. It's all about family and the togetherness that the Legion and costuming brings.
Well, that's what I like. I get. It makes me so happy when I see John and his dad, because I know what that's like. Like, I know with growing up with my kids, like we've done it our entire lives until the girls went to college. And then the only thing that slows us down the last couple of years is they work on Saturdays and Sundays. And so, until they get real jobs and become like normal people, it just hurts the trooping for a little bit.
I've always my brother, he lives in Louisiana. And he also, like, we share the same affinity for Star Wars. Frankly, it's an obsession. And he loves seeing everything 501st. He loves what we do. He wants to be a part of it so badly. And I tell him, I'm like, you can join. Like, it's not just Ohio, man. Like, it's literally international. And he's just like, I don't know. There's a weird hesitancy to it, to go alone.
Yeah.
Into a new hobby. And I know some of the guys and some of the folks in Bast Alpha, which is Louisiana, and they're incredibly nice. They'd be incredibly welcoming, but he's just like, so hopefully one day when he does move back up here, I can get him involved. And I long for that same thing that you guys have experienced. I think that is so cool.
Well, I'm happy that John has a good garrison too. I mean, because John, it'll be you're a year and a half in.
Almost. January will be officially.
Yeah, man, that was because I met John at Steel City. No, did I meet you at Steel City first? Or did I meet you at the movie shoot first?
You met him online first.
Well, I know that.
Yeah. No, because it was the movie, and then a month later it was Steel City. But yeah, well, I totally David, I totally understand what your brother means by being scared of going in alone. Because, like, if it hadn't been for Mike pushing me so hard to join, I wouldn't have joined.
Just because you were like, I don't know these people.
I don't know these people. I don't know, like, how it operates. I don't know, like, the intricacies of it. And having Mike to tell me, like, all of the stories that he has had, and not to mention putting me in the right path to get the costume that I did, I probably would have never joined. I think it would have always just been that, like, back of my mind, like, something I could do, but it's not really my thing.
The funny thing too about that is every time I hear that, and it's so funny because I hear that a lot, and a lot of times the same people that say it, they go, man, I wish I did this a long time ago.
Yep.
Like, they wanted to do it, but there was something pulling them back. It was either like an imposter syndrome or the anxiety of it, or just it being overwhelming, which it is. It can be. But I've heard that statement so many times since I've met, like, introduced new members, or I've trooped with them for the first time. Or I just, I check in with people when they're new members after the first troop, be like, hey, how'd it go? this and this. And, so many times you hear, I wish that I did this like 100 years ago. Like, and I'm just like, it makes me happy to know that you didn't wait until then. You did it, and you did it with the help of your friends. And
I badger people quite often. So
you're very effective at it, apparently. Because John can be quite stubborn.
Don't let him.
You even got him to read.
I know, right?
Yeah, you did.
What is it, school? You're
That's what
probably
I'm
gobbling
saying,
up
but
those Thrawn
no.
books. I bet you are.
Hey, well, next Wednesday I
am.
start my Star Wars club at my school.
That's exciting.
So I have no clue who signed up for it or what, but I see a whole bunch of clone helmets being cast in the future.
I hope discussions in that club can go appropriately.
I think it's middle school. I am sure from the group of kids that I know I'll probably get, they're going to be like the hardcore Star Wars fans. So.
That's good. I was a really embarrassed Star Wars fan when I was a kid. I remember being made fun of for it, so I just pushed that below the surface, but like would go home and watch it by myself.
Yeah. I don't know. I was a big fan because I grew up right at the original one, but I think everyone was a fan at least for the few years, right, Ken? Ken's not as old as me.
Not yet. Someday I'll be as old.
I quit counting at 39. So.
Well, I'm still celebrating the anniversary of my 16th. So.
Oh, good.
That's good.
But yeah, I'm glad I jumped on. I was, I knew today was a weird day, so.
It is a weird day. I'm here.
Hey, I'm glad. Now we just get your Garrison to start a podcast, and I could badger you about podcasting too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're all proof of that.
Yes, none of these guys had podcasts before I met them.
Yep.
And we've now been meeting for over a year on Wednesday nights to talk Star Wars and car repairs and bounce houses.
We're coming up on
2 years. Yes, we're coming up on 2 years. Well, Zoe's, I think next week is Zoe's 8th year, starting her 9th year.
Wow.
So
yeah. By the way, David, that reminds me, I had something I needed to talk to you about.
What's that?
So, oh no, don't worry. I'll talk to you about it later. It's like relevant to this conversation.
No. He just
it's not a podcast. I'm sure.
No, never.
Clearly not.
Well, Mike, do you want to send us out for the night and see what these two knuckleheads are going to chat about?
Yes, I think we'll send this out, but I do just, if anyone is watching, you got 2 watch. That's more than we get when I'm here. Did it go down when I came in? Like when I put my picture on TikTok, I lost like 10,000 followers. Just find Ken at the Rambling Star Wars Fan, and find John at the Best Guard Bucket, and David, find him anywhere in Ohio. What do you troop as? I missed that.
Yeah, I do. I have a TK. I got a TIE Pilot, and the variations of the TIE Pilot. I had a Kylo Ren. I'm trying to be all over Ohio as the commanding officer, but
nice.
Usually stuck in Cleveland.
But reach out to anyone you know in the 500 First. They'll help you become a member. And thanks for joining us. And if you check our GoFundMe to help us buy our Millennium Falcon, I think we're still, if I did my math right, at $0. I'll have to check that math. But if you want to help donate for the Inflatable Falcon, it's in there. And wait a minute, Ken, I don't have it queued up. Do you have it queued up for the outro?
I do. Hold on one second. You're
Don't
right.
Don't worry, guys. I got it.
Let it rip.
Starships, but then my Falcon's hyperdrive just slipped. I I used to worry about the future, but then I threw my caution to the wind. I had no reason to be carefree. No, no, no. Until I took a trip to the treetop side of town. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, I heard that wicked rhythm. Hey, I had no choice but to get down.